I was 60 years old when my mother told me she was getting a divorce. 60. Not 16. Not 26. Not even 46, when such news might still feel somewhat expected in this modern world. But 60. An age when I thought I'd figured out most of life's major lessons. An age when I thought I knew my mother completely. An age when I thought our family story was already written, already settled, already finished. I was wrong about all of it. My mother was 83 years old when she filed for divorce after 62 years of marriage. 62 years. That's longer than I've been alive. That's longer than most people's entire lifetimes. That's a marriage that survived the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the new millennium. A marriage that raised 4 children, weathered financial struggles, celebrated grandchildren and great-grandchildren. A marriage that everyone, including me, thought would only end when one of them died. But my mother had other plans. When she called me that Tuesday morning in March, her voice was steady, calm, almost businesslike. "Beverly," she said. She always used my full name when something was important. "I need you to tell you something, and I need you to just listen until I'm finished." My heart dropped. I thought someone had died. I thought she was sick. I thought something terrible had happened. I never imagined she was about to tell me she was filing for divorce from my father. My name is Beverly, though most people call me Bev. I'm a retired high school English teacher living in Charleston, South Carolina. I have 2 grown sons, 3 grandchildren, and a life I thought I understood. I thought I knew what it meant to be a woman of a certain age. I thought I knew what marriage looked like after decades together. I thought I knew my parents. But watching my 83-year-old mother walk away from a 62-year marriage taught me things about courage, about self-worth, about the lies we tell ourselves, and about the truth that it's never too late to choose yourself. Even when everyone thinks you're too old to start over. Even when people say you should just accept things as they are. Even when the world tells you that at your age, you've made your bed and now you have to lie in it. This is the story of what my mother's divorce taught me at 60, and how it changed everything I thought I knew about love, about marriage, about aging, and about what it means to finally put yourself first, even when it shocks everyone around you. Even when it breaks apart the story everyone thought they knew. Even when people call you selfish for wanting more than just survival in your final years. My parents' marriage was the foundation of everything I understood about family. Robert and Helen Carter, Dad and Mom. They met in 1959 at a church social in Columbia, South Carolina. Mom was 19, working as a secretary at an insurance office. Dad was 22, fresh out of the Army, working at his father's hardware store. By all accounts, it was love at first sight, or at least that's the story they always told. They married 6 months later in a small ceremony at First Baptist Church. Mom wore a borrowed dress, Dad wore his only suit. They honeymooned for one night at a motel 2 towns over, then came home and moved into a tiny apartment above a drugstore. I was born 11 months later. Then my brother Robert Jr. 2 years after that. Then my sister Patricia. Then my youngest brother James. 4 kids in 7 years. Mom stayed home to raise us while Dad worked at the hardware store, eventually taking it over when his father retired. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. We had a modest house in a decent neighborhood. We took 1 vacation a year, usually to Myrtle Beach. We went to church every Sunday. We had family dinners every night at 6 o'clock sharp. We were, by all appearances, a normal, happy, functional family. And maybe we were. Or maybe I was just too young to see the cracks. Dad was what people called a good provider. He worked hard, paid the bills, kept a roof over our heads. He wasn't affectionate. I can count on one hand the number of times I remember him hugging me. But he was reliable, steady. He showed up. Mom was what people called a good wife. She kept the house immaculate. She cooked 3 meals a day. She managed all of us kids with patience and grace. She never complained, at least not where we could hear her. She smiled at church. She volunteered for the PTA. She made it all look effortless. But looking back now, with eyes opened by what came later, I can see things I didn't see then. The way Mom's smile never quite reached her eyes. The way she'd go quiet when Dad spoke, even mid-sentence, as if her words didn't matter as much as his. The way she'd apologize for things that weren't her fault. The weather ruining a picnic, the store being out of Dad's favorite bread, or one of us kids being too loud. The way she made herself smaller and smaller year after year until she was practically invisible. But that's just how marriages were back then, wasn't it? That's what I told myself. Women of my generation sacrificed. They put their husbands first, their children first, themselves last. That was love. That was commitment. That's what you signed up for when you said, I do. I got married myself in 1984 at age 23. My husband, Tom, is a good man. Kind, hardworking, faithful. We built a life together much like the one my parents had built. I taught English at the local high school. He worked as an accountant. We raised our 2 boys. We had our routines, our traditions, our comfortable rhythms. And yes, there were times I felt invisible too. Times I swallowed my words. Times I apologized for things that weren't my fault. Times I made myself smaller to avoid conflict, to keep the peace, to be a good wife. But that's just marriage, right? That's compromise. That's partnership. That's what you do. Or so I thought. My siblings and I all lived within an hour of our parents. We saw them regularly, Sunday dinners, holidays, birthdays. As Mom and Dad aged into their 70s and then their 80s, we worried about them the way adult children do. Their health, their driving, their ability to maintain the house, whether they should consider assisted living eventually. But we never worried about their marriage. That seemed like the one solid, unchangeable thing. They'd been together so long, they'd become like one unit in our minds. Mom and Dad, a single entity, inseparable.
Dad retired at 70 from the hardware store, selling it to a young couple who'd worked for him for years. Mom had never worked outside the home after she got married, so retirement didn't really change anything for her. She just kept doing what she'd always done. Cooking, cleaning, managing the household. Except now Dad was home all day too. I remember Mom mentioning it once, maybe a year after Dad retired. We were having coffee at her kitchen table, a ritual we'd maintained every Thursday morning for years, and she said, almost casually, "Your father is underfoot all the time now. I can't seem to get anything done with him hovering." I laughed. "That's the retirement adjustment, Mom. You'll both figure it out. Maybe Dad needs a hobby." "He says I'm his hobby," Mom said, and something in her tone made me look up. But she was smiling, so I smiled back, and we moved on to other topics. I didn't think about that conversation again for years. Not until it was too late to ask the questions I should have asked. Not until I understood what she'd really been trying to tell me. As their 80s progressed, we all noticed Dad becoming more difficult. He'd always been particular about things, but it intensified. He wanted his meals at exactly the same time every day. He wanted the house kept a certain way. He criticized if the TV was too loud, if Mom was on the phone too long, if dinner wasn't what he expected. "He's just getting old," my brother Robert said. "Old people get set in their ways." "He's always been that way," my sister Patricia countered. "It's just more obvious now." Mom never complained, or if she did, it was always gentle, always wrapped in humor. "Your father is particular," she'd say with a little laugh. But we've made it this far. What's a little extra particular at this point? What indeed? Last year, when Mom was 82 and Dad was 85, Dad had a health scare. He collapsed in the garden one Sunday afternoon. Mom called 911 and they rushed him to the hospital. It turned out to be severe dehydration and low blood sugar, not a heart attack or stroke like we'd all feared. But it shook him, shook all of us. Suddenly, Dad's mortality felt very real. He came home from the hospital diminished, quieter, more dependent on Mom for things he'd always done himself. And Mom stepped up, the way she always had. She managed his medications. She made sure he ate properly. She helped him dress when his hands were stiff in the mornings. She became his full-time caregiver without anyone ever actually asking if she wanted that role. Mom, maybe we should look into getting some help, I suggested one Thursday over coffee. A home health aide, even just a few hours a week. This is a lot for you to handle alone. I've been taking care of your father for 61 years. I can manage a little longer. But there was something in her voice, something flat, empty, like she was reading from a script she'd memorized decades ago but didn't believe anymore. Mom, are you okay? Of course, she said automatically. Then she changed the subject. Over the next few months, I watched my mother shrink. Not physically, though she did lose some weight, but she became even quieter, even smaller, even more invisible than before. She stopped mentioning her book club meetings. She stopped going to her weekly bridge game. She stopped calling me just to chat. When I asked about it, she said, "Your father needs me here. He gets anxious when I'm gone." But Mom, you need a life too. You need your friends, your activities. At my age, she laughed, but it was hollow. What do I need activities for? I have everything I need right here. I didn't push. I should have, but I didn't. Because she was my mother and she'd always been fine, and I couldn't imagine she'd suddenly stop being fine now, at 82 years old. I was wrong about that too. Christmas last year was tense. We all gathered at Mom and Dad's house, like we had for decades, but something felt off. Dad was grumpy, criticizing everything. The turkey was too dry, the grandkids were too loud, someone had parked in his spot in the driveway. Mom fluttered around trying to smooth everything over, apologizing, fixing, managing everyone's feelings. At one point, I found her in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the sink, breathing hard. "Mom," she straightened immediately, passed it on a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart, just a little tired." "You're doing too much. Let us help." I said I'm fine. Her voice was sharp, sharper than I'd ever heard it. Then she softened. "I'm sorry. I'm just tired. It's fine." After Christmas, I didn't see Mom for a few weeks. She canceled our Thursday coffee twice, once because Dad had a doctor's appointment, once because she wasn't feeling well. When we finally met again in mid-January, she looked exhausted, worn down, older than I'd ever seen her. "Mom, something's wrong," I said. "Please talk to me." "Nothing's wrong," she said, but her hands were shaking as she lifted her coffee cup. "Mom, Beverly, please, I don't want to talk about it." So I didn't push. Again, because she was my mother, and if she said she was fine, who was I to insist otherwise? 3 weeks later, she called me on a Tuesday morning. "Beverly, I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen until I'm finished." And then she told me she was filing for divorce. After 62 years of marriage, at 83 years old. My mother, the woman who devoted her entire adult life to being a wife and mother, who'd never even had her own bank account, who'd never lived alone, who'd never made a major decision without consulting Dad first, was leaving him, and nothing I thought I knew about anything made sense anymore. My mother said, "I'm filing for divorce. The papers are already drawn up. I'm meeting with the lawyer this afternoon. I wanted you to know before I tell your father tonight." I sat frozen in my kitchen, the phone pressed to my ear, unable to process what I was hearing. "Mom, what? What are you talking about?" "I'm divorcing your father," she repeated, as if saying it again would make it make sense. "I've thought about this for a long time. I've made my decision. I need you to understand that this isn't impulsive. This isn't me being dramatic. This is something I have to do." But Mom, you've been married for 62 years. You can't just... "Yes, Beverly, I can," she said, and there was steel in her voice I'd never heard before. "I can, and I am." What happened? Did Dad do something? Is he having an affair? Even as I said it, it sounded absurd. My 85-year-old father having an affair. "No, nothing like that." Mom sighed. "He's done what he's always done. He's been exactly who he's always been, but I can't do it anymore. I can't be who I've always been, not for one more day." "Mom, I don't understand." "I know you don't, and I'm not asking you to understand. I'm just asking you to respect my decision, and I need you to tell your brothers and sister for me. I can't have this conversation 4 times. Will you do that for me?" My mind was reeling. Does Dad know? Does he have any idea this is coming? There was a long pause. No. He thinks everything is fine. He thinks it's always been fine. That's part of the problem. "Mom, you have to talk to him first. You can't just blindside him with divorce papers. He's 85 years old. He just had a health scare. This could..." "Beverly," her voice was firm. "I know you're worried about your father. You've always worried about your father, his health, his feelings, his comfort. But what about me? Has anyone worried about me?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. "Of course we worry about you, Mom." "No, you worry about whether I'm taking care of your father well enough, whether I'm managing his medications, whether I'm cooking the right foods for his blood sugar. But has anyone asked me what I need? What I want? How I'm doing beyond whether I'm fulfilling my duties?" I opened my mouth, closed it. She was right. When had I last asked my mother what she wanted? What made her happy? What her dreams were? Never. The answer was never. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "Don't be sorry," Mom said, softer now. "Just respect my decision. Please, Beverly. I need you on my side." "I am on your side," I said automatically. I need to understand what's happening." "I'll explain everything, but first I need to tell your father. And then, would you come over tomorrow? I'll need someone here. I don't know how he's going to react." "Of course," I said. "Of course I'll be there." After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for 20 minutes, just staring at my cold coffee. Then I did what Mom had asked. I called my siblings. Robert Jr. was first. He's the oldest of my brothers, serious and pragmatic, an engineer who thinks in systems and logic. "That's ridiculous," he said flatly. "Mom's not divorcing Dad. She's 83 years old." "I know how old she is, Robert. I'm telling you what she told me." "Well, she's obviously not thinking clearly. Maybe it's dementia. Maybe we need to have her evaluated." "She's not having dementia," I snapped. "She sounded more clear-headed than I've heard her in years." "Then it's Dad," Robert said. "This is about Dad's health scare. She's overwhelmed with taking care of him and she's having some kind of breakdown. We need to get her help, get a home health aide in there." "Robert, that's not what this is." "Bev, I've got to go. I'm in the middle of something, but I'll call Mom tonight and talk some sense into her." He hung up before I could tell him not to. Patricia was next, my sister, 2 years younger than me, a nurse, practical and no nonsense. "Oh, thank God," she said when I told her. I was so surprised I almost dropped the phone. "What?" I said, "Thank God. It's about time." "Patricia, what are you talking about?" She sighed. "Bev, have you actually looked at Mom lately? I mean, really looked at her? She's miserable. She's been miserable for years, maybe decades.
I don't know, but she's finally doing something about it, and honestly, I'm proud of her. But, Mom, they've been married for 62 years. And what? Patricia said. So what? Does that mean she has to stay for 63? For 64? Until one of them dies? Bev, just because you've invested time in something doesn't mean you have to keep investing time in it if it's making you unhappy. But Dad will be fine, Patricia said firmly. He's an adult. He'll figure it out. And if he can't, we'll help him. But Mom has spent her entire life taking care of Dad, taking care of us, taking care of everyone but herself. If she wants to do something for herself for once, we should support her. I don't understand what happened. What changed? Maybe nothing changed, Patricia said quietly. Maybe she's just finally had enough. After Patricia, I called James, my youngest brother, the artist in the family, sensitive and emotional, closer to Mom than any of us. He cried when I told him, "Jamie, it's okay." "No, it's not," he said, his voice thick. "Mom and Dad are supposed to be together. They're supposed to be the example. If they can't make it work, what does that say about the rest of us?" "It doesn't say anything about us. It says marriage is a lie," James said bitterly. "It says love doesn't last. It says you can spend your whole life with someone and still walk away in the end. What's the point of any of it?" "Jamie, I think there's more to this than we understand. Has she met someone else?" he asked suddenly. "Is that what this is? Is Mom having an affair?" "No, God, no. She's 83. So what? Old people can fall in love. Maybe she met some widower at church or at the grocery store or—" "James, stop. There's no one else. She said she can't do it anymore. That's all I know." After I got off the phone with him, I sat in the silence of my house. Tom was at work, and I was glad for that, and tried to process everything. My mother was getting divorced. My siblings were all reacting differently. Denial, support, despair. And I didn't know what I felt. Shock, certainly. Confusion. Worry for my dad. But also something else. Something I couldn't quite name. Something that felt almost like envy? No, that was ridiculous. I wasn't envious of my 83-year-old mother blowing up her life and starting over. Was I? That evening, Tom came home from work to find me still sitting at the kitchen table, having barely moved in hours. "Beth, you okay?" I told him about Mom's call, about the divorce. Tom sat down heavily. Wow. After all these years, what happened? "I don't know," I said. "She wouldn't really explain, just said she couldn't do it anymore." "Your dad must be devastated." "She hasn't told him yet. She's telling him tonight." Tom was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You know, your dad can be pretty difficult. I've always kind of wondered how your mom put up with him all these years." I looked at him sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean he's demanding, critical. Everything has to be his way. Your mom's always running around trying to please him, and he never seems satisfied. I've noticed it for years. Why didn't you say anything?" Tom shrugged. "It's not my place, and I figured that's just how their marriage works. But if your mom's finally had enough, I can't say I blame her." I felt defensive suddenly, though I wasn't sure of what or whom. "They've been together for 62 years, Tom. You don't just throw that away." "Why not? If you're unhappy, if you've been unhappy for decades, how much of your life are you supposed to sacrifice before you're allowed to want something different?" "She's 83 years old. Where's she gonna go? What's she going to do?" "I don't know," Tom said gently. "But those are her questions to answer, not ours. Maybe we should just support her instead of questioning her." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't, because he was right. Patricia was right. Even James in his grief was touching on something true. This challenged everything I thought I knew about love, marriage, commitment. If my parents couldn't make it work, what did that mean for the rest of us? The next morning, I drove to my parents' house with my stomach in knots. I'd barely slept. I kept imagining the conversation Mom and Dad must have had the night before. Dad's shock, his anger, his confusion, Mom standing firm or maybe breaking down. I didn't know which scenario was worse. I pulled into the driveway at 9 o'clock. Dad's car was still there. The house looked normal from the outside. Neat lawn, tidy flower beds, the same house that I'd grown up in. But nothing would ever be normal again. Mom answered the door before I could knock. She looked tired, but calm, composed. She was dressed neatly in slacks and a sweater, her hair done, her makeup on. She looked more put together than she had in months. "Thank you for coming," she said, hugging me briefly. "Of course. Mom, how did it go last night? Is Dad—" "Your father is in the living room. He wants to talk to you." She led me inside. Dad was sitting in his recliner, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. His eyes were red, his hands were shaking. When he saw me, his face crumpled. "Beverly, thank God. Maybe you can talk some sense into your mother." I looked between them. Dad, desperate and broken. Mom, calm and resolute. And I realized I was going to have to choose a side. My mother, who'd sacrificed everything for her family, but was finally choosing herself, or my father, who never knew any life except the one where Mom took care of everything. I'd always been a peacekeeper, always tried to make everyone happy, always smoothed over conflicts and found compromises. But there was no compromise here, no middle ground. Someone was going to be hurt, and someone was going to get what they needed. And for the first time in 60 years, I had to decide whose pain mattered more. My mother's, accumulated over 62 years of making herself smaller, or my father's, sudden and sharp and desperate. I looked at my mother's face, really looked at it, and I saw something I had never seen before. Peace. For the first time in maybe her whole life, my mother looked at peace with a decision she'd made. And I knew which side I was on, even if it cost me my relationship with my father. Even if it meant watching him suffer. Even if it challenged everything I'd believed about marriage and commitment and duty. I was on my mother's side. And that choice would change everything. I sat down across from my father, my heart pounding. Mom remained standing by the doorway, arms crossed, waiting. "Daddy," I said carefully, "I know this is hard." "Hard?" His voice cracked. "Hard? Beverly, your mother has lost her mind. 62 years. 62 years we've been together, and she's throwing it all away over nothing." "Robert, it's not nothing," Mom said quietly. "What is it then?" Dad demanded, turning to look at her. "What have I done that's so terrible? I provided for you, I've been faithful, I've given you a good life. What more do you want from me?" "I want to be seen," Mom said, and her voice wavered for the first time. "Just once, I want to be seen." "What does that even mean?" Dad's frustration was building. "I see you every day. You're right there." "No, Robert. You see someone who cooks your meals and manages your medications and keeps your house clean. But you don't see me, Helen, the person I am, underneath all the things I do for you." "That's ridiculous." "When's my birthday?" Mom asked suddenly. Dad blinked. "What?" "My birthday. When is it?" He hesitated. "June, July, sometime in the summer." "August 13th, Mom said softly. "I've had 83 birthdays and you still don't know when it is." That's not fair, Helen. I'm not good with dates. What's my favorite color? Another pause. Blue? Green. It's always been green. Helen, this is absurd. So I don't know these little details. That doesn't mean... What did I want to be when I grew up? Before we got married, before the kids. What did I want? Dad stared at her. He had no answer. I wanted to be a teacher, Mom said, and now tears were starting to stream down her face. Before we got married, after the kids, what did I want? I wanted to be a teacher. I was taking night classes before we got married. I wanted to teach elementary school. I loved children. I loved learning. But you said we couldn't afford for me to keep taking classes. You said wives should be home. You said we'd start a family right away. And I listened. I gave up my dream because you said so. That's how things were done back then, Dad protested. Women stayed home. Some women, not all. But I did what you wanted. I always did what you wanted. I stopped taking classes. I stopped seeing my friends when you said they were too loud or stayed too late. I stopped going to book club when you said I was gone too much. I stopped existing as anything other than your wife, your children's mother, your housekeeper, your nurse. I never asked you to stop existing, Dad said, but his voice was weaker now. You didn't have to ask, Mom said. You just expected, and I complied. For 62 years, I complied. But Robert, I'm 83 years old. I don't know how many years I have left. 5, 10 if I'm lucky, and I can't spend them complying anymore. I can't spend them invisible. I can't spend them taking care of you while nobody, including me, takes care of me. I'll do better, Dad said desperately. Helen, please, I'll pay more attention. I'll learn your birthday. I'll ask about your day. Robert, Mom's voice was gentle but firm. You're 85 years old. You're not going to change. And I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking for permission to stop changing myself to accommodate you. So you're just giving up? Dad's voice rose. After everything we built together? What have we built together? Mom asked. You built a business. You built a reputation. You built a life that worked for you. I built nothing. I have nothing that's mine. No career, no savings in my own name, no hobbies because I gave them all up, no friends because I let them all drift away. I have nothing, Robert, except the chance to build something in whatever time I have left. The room was silent except for Dad's labored breathing. He looked at me, desperate. Beverly, you understand, don't you? She's your mother, our family. Dad, I said, and my voice was shaking. I love you, but I think Mom's right. His face crumpled. What? I've been watching you and Mom my whole life, and I've watched Mom disappear bit by bit, year by year. I didn't see it clearly until now. But she's right. You never saw her. You saw what she could do for you, but not her. That's not true. Dad, when's the last time you asked Mom what she wanted for dinner instead of just expecting her to make what you wanted? He didn't answer. When's the last time you asked Mom how she was feeling? Not, are my pills ready? Or when's dinner? But actually, how are you, Helen? Still no answer. When's the last time you thanked her for anything she does? The cooking, the cleaning, the managing of your entire life. I shouldn't have to thank her for doing what wives do. Yes, Dad, you should. You absolutely should. Because what wives do is work. It's labor, it's sacrifice, and it deserves recognition and gratitude, not just expectation.
Dad looked at me like I'd betrayed him. Maybe I had, but I couldn't unsee what I was seeing now. My mother's entire life poured into making my father comfortable, and my father taking it all as his due, never once asking what it cost her. "I think I need to go," Dad said stiffly. "Clearly, I'm not wanted here." "Robert, this is your house too," Mom said. "I'm not kicking you out, but I am moving into the guest room, and I am proceeding with the divorce. We can sell the house and split everything, or one of us can buy the other out. We'll work out the details, but this marriage is over." Dad stood up shakily. He looked at me one more time. "I hope you're happy siding against your own father." "I'm not siding against you, Dad," I said quietly. "I'm siding with what's right. And what's right is letting Mom have a life of her own, finally." He left the room. We heard his heavy footsteps going up the stairs. A door slammed. Mom sank into a chair, suddenly looking exhausted. I moved to sit beside her, taking her hand. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I'm terrified, Beverly. I've never been on my own. I've never paid a bill or managed finances or made a major decision without my father's input. I don't even know how to be alone." "You won't be alone," I said. "We're all here. Me, Patricia, Robert, James. We'll help you with whatever you need." "Your brother called last night, Robert Jr. He tried to talk me out of this, said I was being selfish, said I was destroying the family." My jaw tightened. He had no right. He had every right. He's scared. You're all scared. Your idea of who your parents are, what your family is, it's all being shattered. I understand that. But Beverly, I need you to understand something. She turned to look at me directly, her eyes fierce despite the tears. "I am being selfish. For the first time in my entire life, I am putting myself first, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Not to your father, not to your brothers or sister, not even to you, sweetheart. I love you all more than life itself, but I can't sacrifice myself anymore, not even for you." "I don't want you to," I said, squeezing her hand. "Mom, I think you're incredibly brave. I think what you're doing is terrifying and difficult and the rightest thing I've ever seen anyone do." She started crying in earnest then, not sad crying, relief crying. "You have no idea what it means to hear you say that." "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When did you decide? When did you know you were going to do this?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Do you remember last Christmas when you found me in the kitchen?" I nodded. "Your father had just criticized the turkey in front of everyone, said it was too dry. I'd been cooking it since 5 a.m, trying to get it perfect, and it wasn't perfect, but I'd tried so hard. And he just dismissed it, dismissed me, like always." She took a shaky breath. "I was standing at that sink, and I thought, I have cooked this man's Christmas dinner for 61 years. 61 years of turkeys and hams and all the side dishes he likes. And not once, not one single time has he said, 'Thank you for this meal,' or 'You've worked so hard,' or even just, 'This is nice, Helen.' Not once." "Oh, Mom." And I thought, how many more Christmases do I have? 5? 10? Do I want to spend them cooking turkeys that will be criticized, cleaning up after people who don't notice the work, smiling and smoothing over your father's rudeness?
And you decided no, I said softly. I decided no. I decided that whatever time I have left, I want it to be mine. I want to cook what I want to cook or not cook at all. I want to spend Christmas with people who appreciate me. I want to wake up in the morning and ask myself what I want to do that day, not what your father needs me to do. What do you want to do? If you could do anything. Mom smiled through her tears. I want to go back to school, finish what I started all those years ago. Maybe not to become a teacher, I'm too old for that, but just to learn, to take classes, to read books that interest me, not just the ones from the approved list at church. I want to travel. I've never been further than Myrtle Beach. Did you know that? 63 years of life, and I've seen nothing of the world. Where do you want to go? Everywhere, she said, her eyes lighting up. But especially, I've always wanted to see the Grand Canyon. I've seen pictures my whole life, but I want to stand on the edge of it and see it with my own eyes. Then you'll see it, I said firmly. We'll make it happen. Beverly, there's something else I need to tell you. Something I need you to hear. Okay. She looked at me with such tenderness and such sadness. You're doing the same thing I did. My stomach dropped. What? With Tom. You're making yourself smaller. You're apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You're managing everyone's emotions. You're putting yourself last. Mom, that's not... When's the last time you did something just for yourself? Not for Tom, not for your sons, not for your grandchildren. Just for you. I opened my mouth, closed it. I couldn't think of a single thing. You retired from teaching 2 years ago. You said you were going to finally write that novel you'd always talked about. Have you written it? I've been busy. Busy with what? Watching the grandkids so your sons' wives can work? Cooking dinner for Tom every night? Managing the household? Beverly, you have time now. You have freedom, and you're filling it with the same patterns I filled my life with. It's different, I protested weakly. Tom is not like Dad. He's supportive.
Is he? Mom asked gently. Or does he just assume you'll handle everything domestic while he focuses on what interests him? Does he ask what you want? Or does he just expect you'll be there, managing everything, making his life smooth? I thought about Tom, my kind, good husband, who came home from work every day expecting dinner on the table, who left his clothes on the floor for me to pick up, who made plans without consulting me because he assumed I'd accommodate them, who'd encouraged me to retire from teaching so I could enjoy life, but whose version of enjoying life meant I'd have more time to manage the house and help with grandchildren. Oh, God, I whispered. You're 60 years old, Mom said. You're younger than I am. You have more time. But Beverly, time runs out faster than you think, and if you don't claim your life now, you'll wake up one day at 83 and realize you gave it all away to people who loved you but never truly saw you. Her words hit me like a physical blow, because she was right. She was absolutely right. I'd retired from a career I loved, thinking I'd finally have time for myself. But instead, I just shifted my caretaking from students to family. I was still managing, still accommodating, still making myself smaller to fit into everyone else's life. What do I do? I asked. What I'm doing, Mom said. You start claiming your life, bit by bit. You start saying no when you want to say no. You start asking for what you need. You start mattering in your own life. I'm scared, I admitted. Me too, Mom said. I'm terrified, but I'm more scared of dying without ever having really lived. We sat together in silence for a while, holding hands, both of us crying, both of us terrified, both of us finally seeing the truth we'd been avoiding our whole lives. That loving someone doesn't mean disappearing for them. That being a good wife, a good mother, a good woman doesn't mean having no needs of your own.
that you can spend your whole life serving others and still end up empty, invisible, lost. And that it's never too late, not at 83, not at 60, not at any age, to finally choose yourself. Even if it means breaking apart everything you thought your life was. Even if it means disappointing people you love. Even if it means starting over when you thought the story was already written. My mother was getting divorced at 83, and watching her do it, I realized I needed to make some changes of my own. Maybe not divorce, but changes. Real ones, hard ones. Changes that would mean I'd stop disappearing. Changes that would mean I'd finally matter in my own life. And that realization, sitting in my mother's living room on a Wednesday morning, changed everything. Not just for her, but for me too. The next few months were chaos. Dad moved out 2 weeks after Mom filed the papers. He went to stay with my brother, Robert Jr., who'd been the most vocal in his opposition to the divorce. Robert's wife, Linda, wasn't thrilled about it, but she made room, and Dad settled into their guest room with the air of a martyr being persecuted. "Your mother will come to her senses," he told anyone who would listen. "She'll realize she's made a mistake, and I'll be waiting for when she does." But Mom didn't come to her senses. If anything, she seemed more certain with each passing day. The legal process moved surprisingly quickly. After 62 years, there was much to fight about. They split their savings, modest after all these years. They sold the house, splitting the proceeds down the middle. Dad took his car, his tools, his clothes. Mom took her car, her books, her kitchen things. It was like watching a life be carefully dismantled and divided into two separate boxes. Patricia and I helped Mom look for a place to live. She wanted something small, manageable, affordable. We found a lovely 2-bedroom apartment in a senior living community. Not assisted living, just a place where people her age lived independently, but with amenities like a community center, planned activities, a shuttle service. "It's perfect," Mom said, standing in the empty living room the first time we toured it. "It's all mine." Those 3 words, "it's all mine," I'd never heard such joy in my mother's voice. Moving day was bittersweet. James came to help, still upset, but trying to be supportive. Patricia and her husband brought their truck. Tom came too, quiet and helpful, not saying much. Robert Jr. didn't come. He called Dad instead, spent an hour on the phone with him, probably reassuring him that Mom would regret this any day now. But Mom didn't come to her senses. If anything, she seemed more certain with each passing day. As we unpacked boxes in Mom's new apartment, I watched her transform. She hung curtains she'd picked out herself, bright yellow, cheerful, nothing like the neutral beige that had covered the windows in the house. She arranged her books on shelves, not hidden away in a back room, but prominently displayed in the living room. She set up a small desk by the window where she said she'd do her homework when she enrolled in classes. "You're really going back to school?" James asked. "I really am," Mom said. "I've already looked into it. The community college has a program for senior learners. I'm going to take a literature and a history class this fall." "Mom, that's amazing," Patricia said. "It's terrifying," Mom corrected. "But yes, also amazing." That evening, after everyone else had left, I stayed to help Mom make up her bed. We worked in comfortable silence, tucking in sheets, fluffing pillows. Her bedroom was small but peaceful, with a view of a little garden courtyard. "How are you really doing, Mom?"
She sat on the edge of her new bed, looking around the room. "You know what's strange? I thought I'd be sad, grieving the life I left behind. But mostly I just feel light. Like I've been carrying something heavy for so long that I forgot what it felt like to stand up straight." "No regrets?" "Oh, plenty of regrets," she said. "I regret not doing this sooner. I regret all the years I wasted being invisible. I regret not setting boundaries when you kids were young so you could see what a healthy relationship looks like." She looked at me, but I don't regret leaving, not for a second. "Dad's really struggling," I said. "I know, and I'm sorry for that. I am. But Beverly, I can't set myself on fire to keep your father warm anymore.
He'll figure out his life. He has you kids. He has his health, more or less. He'll be fine. He says he's waiting for you to come back. Mom shook her head. I won't be coming back. The sooner he accepts that, the sooner he can move on. After I left Mom's apartment that night, I drove home slowly, thinking about everything. About my mother's courage, about my father's inability to see what he'd lost until it was gone, about my own life and the changes I needed to make. Tom was watching TV when I got home. He looked up when I walked in. How's your mom settling in? Good. Really good, actually. That's good. He turned back to the TV. I stood there for a moment, watching him. My husband of 36 years. Good man. Reliable. Steady. Kind in his way. But did he see me? Really see me? Tom, we need to talk, I said. He muted the TV, looking concerned. Everything okay? I need things to change, I said, sitting down across from him. And our marriage. And how we live. Okay, he said cautiously. What kind of changes? I'm not cooking dinner every night anymore, I said. We're going to take turns. Or we're going to cook together. Or we're going to eat separately if we want different things, but I'm not going to be solely responsible for feeding us anymore. Tom blinked. Okay, I can learn to cook more. And I'm not doing all your laundry anymore, I continued. You're an adult. You can do your own laundry. I'll do mine. You do yours. Bev, where is this coming from? From watching my mother nearly disappear completely before she finally saved herself. From realizing I'm heading down the same path. From understanding that I retired from teaching to have time for myself, but instead, I've just become a full-time household manager. I thought you liked taking care of things. Did you think that? Or did you just assume it because it was convenient? Tom was quiet for a moment. Then he said, That's not fair. Isn't it? I asked. Tom, when's the last time you asked me what I wanted to do with my day? What I was interested in? What my dreams were? He looked uncomfortable. I don't know. I guess I thought I knew. You don't, I said, because I haven't been living them. I've been living your life, making your life comfortable and calling it a marriage. Are you saying you want a divorce? Tom asked, and for the first time I heard fear in his voice. No, I said. I love you, Tom, I do. But I need our marriage to change. I need to matter in it, not just as the person who manages everything, but as a person with my own interests, my own time, my own life. Tell me what you need, Tom said quietly. I'm listening. And so I told him. I told him about the novel I'd always wanted to write but never had time for, about how I wanted to take a creative writing class at the community college, about how I wanted to travel, not just weekend trips to see the kids, but real travel to places I'd always dreamed of seeing, about how he wanted to take equal responsibility for managing our household, not just helping out with my responsibilities. This is a lot, Tom said when I finished. I know. But Tom, I'm 60 years old. I don't know how much time I have left. And I don't want to waste it. I don't want to look back in 83 and realize I gave my entire life away to everyone but myself. Tom was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I never realized you felt this way. I thought you were happy. I thought I was too. But happy isn't the same as content. And content isn't the same as fulfilled. I want to be fulfilled, Tom. I want to matter in my own life. You matter to me. I know. But I need to matter to myself too. We talked for hours that night. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. Tom was defensive at times, hurt at times, but he was also listening, really listening. And by the end, he agreed to try, to split household responsibilities more evenly, to support my writing, to plan trips together based on what we both wanted, not just what was convenient. The next week, I enrolled in a creative writing class at the community college, the same college where my mother was taking her literature class. We arranged our schedules so we could have lunch together in between classes. That first day, walking across campus with my mother, both of us carrying notebooks and textbooks like young students, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Excitement, possibility, like my life was beginning instead of ending. "Look at us," Mom said, laughing. "Two old ladies going back to school." We're not old. We're just getting started. Mom's divorce was finalized 3 months after she filed. She and Dad had to appear in court together one final time. I went with her for support. Dad looked smaller than ever, defeated and gray. He barely looked at Mom. She looked straight ahead, calm and composed, and answered the judge's questions clearly. "Mrs. Carter, are you certain this is what you want?"
"Yes, Your Honor," Mom said firmly. "I am absolutely certain." "Very well. I hereby grant the dissolution of marriage between Helen and Robert Carter." Just like that, 62 years ended with a gavel strike. Outside the courthouse, Dad tried one more time. "Helen, please, we can still fix this. We can go to counseling." "Robert," Mom said gently, "it's over. I wish you well, I really do, but this is final." Dad looked at me desperately. "Beverly, talk to her." "Dad, Mom's made her choice," I said. "We need to respect it." He walked away without another word. I watched him go, feeling sad for him, but also clear that Mom had made the right choice for herself, finally. Over the next several months, I watched my mother bloom. She took her classes and excelled in them, writing papers that her professors praised. She made friends in her apartment complex, other women her age, some widowed, some divorced, all living independently and loving it. She joined a book club that actually met, unlike the one she'd given up years ago. She started volunteering at the local library, helping children learn to read, finally using that teaching dream in some small way. And in the spring, Patricia, Mom, and I took a trip to Arizona to see the Grand Canyon. I'll never forget the look on Mom's face when she stood at the edge of that massive canyon, the wind whipping her hair, the sun setting in brilliant oranges and reds. She cried, but they were tears of joy. "I did it. I'm really here. I'm really seeing it." "You did it, Mom," I said, putting my arm around her. "Better late than never," Patricia added from her other side. That trip changed something in all three of us. We talked about everything: our childhoods, our marriages, our regrets and dreams. Patricia admitted that her own marriage had been struggling, that she'd been considering counseling. I talked about the changes I was making with Tom, how hard it was, but how necessary. And Mom talked about what it felt like to finally, at 83, feel like her own person. "I wish I'd done this sooner," she said one evening as we sat on the hotel balcony watching the stars. "I wish I'd had the courage when I was your age, Beverly, or yours, Patricia. I wish I'd taught you both to value yourselves from the beginning instead of teaching you to disappear the way I did." "You're teaching us now," I said. "It's never too late to teach us something important." "Your father called me last week," Mom said quietly. "What did he want?" Patricia asked. "To tell me he started dating someone, a widow from his church. He wanted me to know. I think he thought it would make me jealous or make me regret leaving." "How did you feel?" I asked. Mom smiled. "I felt happy for him, genuinely. If he's found someone who wants to take care of him the way I did, someone who actually enjoys that role, then good for both of them. I hope they're very happy. Do you ever miss him? Patricia asked. I miss some things, Mom admitted. I miss the good memories. I miss the man I thought I married before I understood that he couldn't see me. But do I miss the daily reality of that marriage? No, not even for a second. Dad did end up remarrying about a year after the divorce. A nice woman named Dorothy, another widow, who seemed perfectly content to cook and clean and manage his life. Robert Jr. was thrilled that Dad had moved on. James was still processing everything. Patricia and I were just glad Dad was taken care of, so we didn't have to worry about him as much. And Mom? Mom kept thriving. At 84, she finished enough classes to earn a certificate in liberal arts studies. She hung her certificate on her wall with as much pride as I'd hung my college degree decades ago. She started a writing group with some of her classmates, women in their 70s and 80s who'd never had time to write before, but were making time now. She took another trip with her apartment complex friends, this time to Washington, D.C., to see the museums and monuments she'd never seen. She sent me photos from the Lincoln Memorial, the Smithsonian, the cherry blossoms. In every photo, she was smiling, a genuine lit-from-within smile I'd never seen in all the years of family photos. And I kept changing my own life. I wrote every day, slowly working on that novel I'd always dreamed of writing. I took a watercolor painting class. I joined a hiking group. Tom and I split household duties more evenly, and while he grumbled sometimes, he was doing it. We were learning to be partners in a real way, not just roommates who loved each other. And most importantly, I was learning to see myself, to value my own time, to say no when I needed to say no, to ask for what I wanted instead of just accommodating everyone else's wants. It wasn't easy. The old patterns tried to reassert themselves constantly, but every time I felt myself shrinking, I thought of my mother at 83, walking into a courtroom and choosing herself. And I chose myself too. One afternoon, about 18 months after Mom's divorce, I was having coffee with her at her apartment. She was telling me about a man in her writing group who'd asked her to dinner. Just for friends, she said quickly, but it's nice to have someone interested in what I think, what I write, who I am. You should go, I said. I'm too old to date, Mom protested, but she was smiling. You're never too old to be seen. Isn't that what you taught me? She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. How are you doing, sweetheart, really? I'm good, I said, and I meant it. I'm really good, Mom. I'm writing, I'm painting, I'm living my life instead of just managing everyone else's. It's still hard sometimes, but it's worth it. I'm proud of you, Mom said. I'm proud of you too, Mom. You saved yourself, and in saving yourself, you saved me too. You taught me it's never too late. That lesson, that's the greatest gift you ever gave me.
Learning the same hard lesson, that love doesn't require disappearing, that duty doesn't mean self-erasure, that it's never, ever too late to matter in your own life. My mother's divorce at 83 was the most shocking, controversial, difficult thing our family had ever been through. It was also the most important because it taught all of us, that you are never too old to choose yourself. You are never too far gone to reclaim your life. You are never too committed to something to walk away if it's destroying you.
and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is disappoint people who've depended on your self-sacrifice, because you matter. Your life matters. Your dreams matter. Your happiness matters. Even at 83, even at 60, even at any age, it always matters. You always matter. I'm 62 now, 2 years after my mother's divorce. This morning, I'm sitting at my desk, the one I set up in the spare bedroom that I claimed as my writing space, working on the final chapter of my novel. It's taken me 2 years to write, and it probably won't ever be published, but that's not the point. The point is, I wrote it. I finished something that was mine, for me, because I wanted to. Tom just brought me a cup of coffee. He does that now, most mornings when I'm writing. He doesn't interrupt, just sets it down quietly and leaves me to my work. It's a small thing, but it means he sees what I'm doing. He sees that it matters. We're different now, Tom and I. Not unrecognizable, but changed. We cook together 3 nights a week. We each handle our own laundry. We plan trips based on what we both want to see, not just visiting the kids. Last fall, we went to Maine to see the autumn leaves. Next spring, we're planning a trip to Ireland, something I've wanted to do my whole life but never thought to ask for. Our marriage isn't perfect. We still have disagreements. We still slip into old patterns sometimes. But now when I feel myself shrinking, I speak up. And Tom, to his credit, has learned to listen. My mother turned 85 last month. We threw her a birthday party at her apartment complex, and the community room was full of people, her classmates, her writing group, her book club, her neighbors, her children and grandchildren. She was radiant in a green dress, her favorite color, the one my father never remembered. The man from her writing group, Harold, was there. They'd been seeing each other for about 6 months now. Nothing serious, she insists, just companionship. But I see the way she lights up when he's around, the way he listens when she talks, the way he remembers things about her, little details that matter to her, the way he sees her. At the party, James gave a toast. My youngest brother, who'd cried when he heard about the divorce, who'd been convinced it meant love was a lie. To Mom, he said, raising his glass, who taught us that it's never too late to be brave, never too late to choose yourself, never too late to start over. Mom, you scared the hell out of all of us 2 years ago, but watching you live your life these past 2 years, really live it, not just survive it, has been the greatest gift. You've shown us what courage looks like, what self-respect looks like, what it means to matter in your own life. So here's to you, Mom, to many more years of living exactly the way you want to live. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Later that evening, after most people had left, Mom and I sat together on her little balcony. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I got a letter from your father last week, Mom said. I turned to look at her. Dad and Mom hadn't spoken directly since the divorce was finalized. What did he say? He apologized, Mom said softly. Said he'd been doing some thinking, some counseling with Dorothy's encouragement. Said he finally understood what I'd been trying to tell him all those years, that he'd taken me for granted, that he'd never really seen me as a person, just as a role. He said he was sorry it took losing me to understand. How do you feel about that? I asked. Mom was quiet for a moment. Sad, I suppose. Sad that it took 62 years and a divorce for him to see it, but also at peace with it. I don't need his apology to validate my choice. I know I made the right decision, but I'm glad he's learning something from all this. Glad Dorothy won't have to go through what I went through. Do you regret anything? About your marriage? About the divorce? I regret the years I wasted. The years I could have been living instead of just existing. But I don't regret leaving when I did. Better late than never, right? Better late than never, I agreed. We sat in comfortable silence watching the sunset. Then Mom said, "You know what the best part is about all of this?" "What's that?" "I'm not afraid anymore," she said. "I used to be afraid all the time. Afraid of making my father angry, afraid of doing something wrong, afraid of being too much or not enough, afraid of speaking up, afraid of taking up space. But now, I'm not afraid. At 85 years old, I'm finally not afraid." "What changed?" I asked. I realized the worst thing had already happened. I'd already lost myself. And once I'd faced that, once I'd acknowledged it and decided to do something about it, there was nothing left to be afraid of. What was anyone going to do to me that was worse than what I'd already done to myself? Her words settled over me like a blanket. Because she was right. The thing we fear most, losing ourselves, disappearing, becoming invisible, it doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually, through 1,000 small concessions, 1,000 moments of putting ourselves last, 1,000 times we swallow our words to keep the peace. And once you recognize it's happening, once you name it, you can stop it. It's never too late to stop it.
I want to talk to you directly now, to everyone who's listening to this story. Maybe you're in your 60s like me, looking at your life and wondering where you went. Maybe you're in your 80s like my mother was, thinking it's too late to change anything. Maybe you're younger, in your 30s or 40s, already feeling yourself shrink, already making yourself smaller to fit into someone else's life. Wherever you are, whatever age you are, I want you to hear this. It's not too late. It's never too late to choose yourself, to matter in your own life, to take up space, to speak up, to ask for what you need, to walk away from situations that diminish you, even if you've been in them for decades, even if everyone expects you to stay, even if people call you selfish for wanting more than just survival. My mother taught me that at 83, you can still start over. You can still claim your life. You can still discover who you are underneath all the roles you've been playing. And if she can do it at 83, you can do it at whatever age you are right now. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. It's terrifying. It means disappointing people who've depended on your self-sacrifice. It means changing patterns that have been in place for decades. It means sitting with the discomfort of not knowing what comes next. But the alternative, continuing to disappear, continuing to live a half-life, continuing to serve everyone but yourself until you die, that's more terrifying. My mother used to say when I was growing up, when you get married, you have to compromise. That's what love is. And she was partially right. Compromise is part of partnership, but compromise shouldn't mean erasure. It shouldn't mean you lose yourself completely in the process of loving someone else. Real love, healthy love, sees you, values you, makes space for you, asks what you need and actually listens to the answer, shares your responsibilities, celebrates your dreams alongside their own. If your love requires you to disappear, it's not love. It's something else, something that might look like love from the outside, but isn't. And you don't owe your life to it, not at any age. My father, by the way, is doing well. He and Dorothy got married last year in a small ceremony. My siblings and I were invited. I went, Patricia went, James went. Robert Jr. was the best man.
It was strange watching my father marry someone who wasn't my mother. But Dorothy is kind to him, and more importantly, he's different with her. More appreciative, more attentive. He asks her opinion. He thanks her for meals. He notices when she's tired. He learned something from losing my mother. It cost him his marriage, but he learned. I wonder sometimes what their marriage would have been like if he'd learned these lessons 40 years ago. If he'd seen my mother when there was still time to save the marriage. But maybe there's no point in wondering. Maybe some lessons can only be learned through loss. After the wedding, Dad pulled me aside. "Your mother looks happy," he said quietly. "I saw photos on Facebook from her birthday party. She is happy, really happy, Dad." He nodded slowly. I never understood what she needed from me. I thought providing for her, being faithful, showing up, I thought that was enough. I didn't know there was more. "There's always more," I said gently. "People need to be seen, to be heard, to matter in their own life." "I see that now," Dad said. "Too late for your mother and me, but not too late to do better with Dorothy." "I'm glad," I said, and I meant it. Next month, Mom and I are taking a trip together. Just the two of us. We're going to New York City. Neither of us has ever been. We're going to see Broadway shows and visit museums and eat at restaurants we can't pronounce the names of. We're going to be two women, not mother and daughter necessarily, but two women experiencing the world together. I'm bringing my laptop to work on my second novel. Mom is bringing her journal. She's writing a memoir about her life, about the divorce, about learning to choose herself at 83. "Do you think anyone would want to read it?" she asked me last week. I think lots of people would want to read it. I think there are women everywhere who need to hear your story, who need to know it's not too late. "What would I even call it?" she wondered. "How about Better Late Than Never?" I suggested. She smiled. "I like that. That's exactly what it is." So that's what my mother's divorce taught me at 60. It taught me that age is no excuse for staying in a life that's killing you. It taught me that you can rebuild yourself at any stage. It taught me that the people who truly love you will support your growth even when it scares them. It taught me that being a good mother doesn't mean sacrificing yourself completely, that being a good wife doesn't mean disappearing, that being a good woman doesn't mean having no needs of your own. It taught me that you matter, that I matter, that we all matter, regardless of how long we've been playing roles that diminish us. And most importantly, it taught me that courage isn't just for the young, that bravery doesn't have an expiration date, that transformation is possible at 83, at 60, at any age. It always matters. You always matter.